Okay, welcome back to the Location Independence podcast. And in the name of Location Independence, today I'm in Kyrgyzstan, which is really beautiful, actually. So today I have with me Robert. Robert, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Michelle. So I'm Robert Koenekamp, the founder and CEO of Pocket Listing, and we're a new development sales brokerage operating in the United States and as well as in Dubai. And we also specialize in selling Dubai real estate to international investors. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I started working with Robert because, as you know, I do luxury properties, luxury short-term rentals, and hotels for those who are in that space. And it's a really interesting partnership because when you buy a property, you don't want to just have the property. You usually want to do something with it. And so we're putting our minds together and trying to give guidance on how to build a location independent lifestyle using or leveraging real estate investments as ongoing cash flow and also a long-term investment or a property flip for quick gains depending on the property, depending on your agenda. We talked a little bit on the last podcast about the legal requirements for investing in real estate. We're talking about the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai. But today we're going to talk about the Arab Emirates as a broader whole, and we're going to get deeper into the legal requirements. And Robert has been working in this area for how many years have you been there now?
I've been there since 2018, coming on 7 years soon.
That's almost kind of when I feel like Dubai started to be on the map, right?
Yeah, that's hence why I went there.
So it got popular. And prior to that, he was working in China, and he continues to have lots and lots of interesting stuff in the US. So if the United Arab Emirates is not for you, but maybe you want to invest in the US, we can talk through that, and we're definitely going to talk through that later. But today, going into the Arab Emirates, just for simplicity, I'll talk about Dubai, but for you to know, a lot of this kind of applies throughout the Emirates, and there is some division between what foreigners can invest in land, like what foreigners can invest in outright versus having to, or perhaps I misunderstand this. Perhaps you can walk me through. But I believe that foreigners can invest in certain areas, and in other areas they need to invest through a company. Maybe I have that wrong. But today we're going to talk about the legal requirements for investing there. And you can just assume that if I talk about Dubai, it more or less applies to anywhere that we're going to recommend you invest.
Yes, in most circumstances. But like you said, there is two types of property ownership. There's freehold ownership, which is you own the land and you own the building, or the land if there's no building on it. And then there's land leases, which are 99 years. And so you own the rights to use the land, but you do not own the land. Most Dubai and the UAE and Abu Dhabi have implemented freehold zones so that foreign investors can purchase land and property and own that outright with no lease.
Okay, and for those who are coming from the US, the idea of a land lease might be foreign. What does this look like?
A land lease is normally 99 years, and you pay for what you pay for that property. It's still a substantial cost if you look at it compared to what you pay for a property when you freehold it. But the use is only for 99 years. And so you may be able to resell that between that time, but at the end of the time, you're only selling the use for 99 years and nothing else.
Okay, and so if you, with a normal lease, if you were to sell is it like you have shares in the, like, do you own the property, but you lease the land that the property is sitting on? Do you lease the property and the land?
I mean, basically you're just leasing, like here in the country, in the US, if you were to, go lease a commercial space, you're not going to own the land. You'll own the lease, whether that lease term be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And, you'll have the rights to utilize that property for that term, but you cannot sell that property and you cannot own that property. So you may be able to sell your lease, right? So if you have the 99-year lease and you paid X dollars for it, you could sell it to another party for X dollars for the remaining time on that 99-year lease. But it'll never be an ownership, like a freehold ownership, where you own the land and it's yours forever until you decide to do something else.
And is this leased with the government of the United Arab Emirates, or who's the
A
landlord?
majority of the countries that utilize this type of process, it's the government. So the government owns the land and they're leasing it back to the individual.
Okay. And is there, just to kind of get all the questions out of the way, is there a scenario in which they can pull the lease from?
So I'm not 100% sure on that. I wouldn't think that there would be. I'm sure there's, legal processes that are put into place to protect both parties. But what I will say, like in Dubai, for instance, there are areas that only Emiratis can live, right? So no foreign investor can purchase within those areas. Residents, like Emirati citizens, can purchase in those areas. But outside of that, freeholds, like downtown Dubai is a freehold. Many different areas in Dubai are freehold now. And then Abu Dhabi, Yas Island's a freehold. But in other parts, you do a land lease.
If it was an area that's only for Emiratis, and for some reason you really wanted to live there, would you be able to buy or take a lease in the name of an Emirati business? Like, say, for instance, if you had an Emirati business partner on that business.
I don't want to say yes or no because it's like one of those gray areas. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only be Emirati and live there. So yes, the Emirati citizen would have to have that home in their name. If they would allow you to stay there, that's up to them. But I don't believe, but I know for sure you as a foreign citizen, and even if you're a resident in Dubai, if you're not an Emirati, you will not be able to purchase in certain areas that are specifically Emirati ownership. I don't know how strict they are on those guidelines. I know they're strict enough to you're not buying unless you're an Emirati, but if you get caught renting a home because the Emirati is lying, basically, which is probably unlikely, it's not going to happen most likely. They're not going to want to go against them.
And I was going to say I can appreciate that. For those who haven't been to Dubai, it feels a little bit weird sometimes because you go and you're like, stores are mostly British. There's some Spanish stores. But yeah, so I can understand this, because you go and there's a lot of foreigners. And so you kind of wonder where are the Emiratis, and you definitely see them. But I appreciate that they're holding on to areas that are maybe just for them so they don't lose their culture entirely. I think that's really important. We've explained the difference between the freehold areas and the land leases. What about, is there a difference between purchasing an apartment, a villa, a townhouse? Are there condos? Are there co-ops? Can you outright own the land like in the US where you buy a house and it's just yours, nobody? Or does kind of everything have an HOA?
Okay, so freehold, like we said, is you're buying the land, the property, you're holding it, it's yours, no one can take it from you. So that's the first step, is getting a freehold, choosing to buy a property to freehold the zone, right? Then once you've done that, whether it be a house, a villa or an apartment, house is a villa over there, same thing. Whether it be a villa or an apartment, your HOA, it's not really an HOA, it's just there are fees, but the fees are very minimal. There are a few AED per square foot. It's very inexpensive.
What about somewhere like, I toured Katura Reserves when I was there, and Katura Reserves stays in my mind as I think this place is phenomenal. I think it's groundbreaking. There's a few projects like this. What do the fees look like on a property like this? And for those who don't know Katura Reserve, it's I like to think of it as an entire community that belongs to only the tenants of that housing development. You have courts, you have gyms, you have cafes, restaurants, childcare, Rolls-Royce cars with drivers, maid service, all included in your fees, which is amazing. But it has to come with a pretty price, right?
Yeah, so I mean that's the one thing that people don't realize in Dubai. Like the HOA fees here are more expensive than over there, and over there you're getting a lot more for your money. like you said, the amenities are amazing. I mean, at Katura Reserve, you do have access to a Rolls Royce and a driver to take you to places around town. And that's just part of your fee that you're paying on a monthly basis. I would say that, I want to say, let's just say, I want to give you the exact number. I just don't recall it off the top of my head. But like you could 7 AED to 10 AED a month, maybe. Just most projects have they have that small, monthly AED per square foot for their management fees, and that's going to apply to most any community because the way that Dubai has been developed is more like a community, right? So you have these little communities and they have all their amenities within. So you're paying for those amenities.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing. You're not just paying the fees to go to a management company to do nothing. Like you get a Rolls Royce with this. You get childcare, you get weekly cleaning, access to private restaurants, and I mean, imagine being able to invite friends to a private restaurant. It's really nice. So, okay, so if you invest in the Emirates, is your name on a deed to the property? Do you have a deed?
Yeah, so it's a deed, and your name goes on it. And what will happen is you'll need your passport, your visa, your Emirates ID if you're a resident, and that's it. And then you'll get signed. You get your information put on a deed, and it's recorded with the Dubai Land Department, and you now own a property.
Like that.
And multiple people can go on the deed as well. So like here in the United States, if I was to sell, multiple people on a property, they would most likely go purchase, they would create an LLC to purchase that property, and then they would divide their shares in the LLC, and then the LLC would own the property as a whole. Whereas in Dubai, if there's 5 people or 10 people that want to invest in a property together, all 5 or 10 of those people can go, their names will go on the deed, and they'll be allocated their ownership share of that property through the deed. And so they can choose to open an LLC, and most will based on for tax purposes or whatever purposes, business required. But they can all personally put their names on the deed and own the property.
Okay, and it's secure. And I think anyone who's investing through us, we're going to give you. You're not just like out there trying to figure this out on your own. We're going to give you access to our network of attorneys, accountants, and these people are like people that we've vetted, people that we've worked with, who you can trust, who you can rely on to make sure that everything is done properly, that nobody's giving you a false deed. I think we've all heard the horror stories, like someone buys a property and then a year later, the true landlord, the true owner shows up and you're like, who did I give my money to?
Yeah.
So, none of that happening with us. Okay. And do you need to now? We talked a little bit about in the last couple of episodes about people who maybe want to do some sort of payment plan, who want to put 30% down and make payment over 5 years, 10 years. Can you do a 30-year term?
So 25 years is the normal. I mean, 5 to 25 years are the terms, the average mortgage terms that are offered in the UAE and Dubai. There are other mortgage companies that may offer different offers, right? But majority of the time it's 5 to 25 years, and it's 20 to 30% down, right, on a property that's built.
Okay.
I guess if the property is not built, and it's at a certain milestone, you can finance up to 50% of the.
It's really low, actually. Consider that some of these properties are 250,000.
Yeah, it is very low, and a lot of the times these properties that are 250,000 or even $100,000, you can put a renter in them if they don't already have a renter, and you could be covering your mortgage on day one.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I remember, just for anyone who's curious, for anyone who's joining for the first time, I remember hearing you said some of these you can get a 20 to 30% cap. Is that still true for a place that's 100,000?
Yeah, well, so for instance, in RAC is where the Wynn Casino is being built. And we're working on a place, Zach and I, that there's some units over there that are around $100,000. They're on the water, and they're rented for $30 to $50 per night on Airbnb. You're getting in about 1,000 to 1,200 USD a month on long-term rent, and your mortgage on that property would be about, with fees and everything, you're probably spending around $600, give or take. And the whole goal there is to say, okay, so right now you may be spending, you're making $400 a month plus on your mortgage, on the mortgage. And then your play is holding it until Wynn opens up. When the Wynn Casino opens up, you're within 10 minutes to the Wynn Casino. Your Airbnb rates are going to skyrocket. You know this doing business in other markets, right? And that'll skyrocket. So your rental return will skyrocket. Along with the rental return skyrocketing, the property value will increase. Now, in a place like RAC, the property values have already increased over 20 to 30%, and Wynn is not even open yet. So a $100,000 property has potential for sure to increase 20+%, right? When Wynn opens up. Will you find that same type of return on all $100,000 investments in Dubai? Absolutely not. And the reason being is based on location and what's going on in the area. And that's what's key. And that's what our strategy revolves around. Is one, finding the right areas that, depending on the strategy of the client, whether they want to buy something that's pre-planned or something that's built, we'll find the right areas that will dictate the potential capital appreciation based on what's going on in that area. So for instance, Dubai South has Al Maktoum Airport, and that's going to be one of the, if not the largest airport in the world for both passengers as well as cargo. And Dubai South, which is south of Al Maktoum Airport, everything there is going to skyrocket, and it is skyrocketing. And there you can go buy land and just sit on it and sell that land later to a developer. Or you can buy properties and you can rent it out current at a lower rate. And then when Al Maktoum Airport becomes more open and more things are happening, the rents will increase as well as the property value. So real estate in Dubai works like real estate anywhere in the world. It's called supply and demand. The only difference is that Dubai has more going on for now and into the future than most of the world does. And that's why these capital appreciation, gains can continue to take place at a higher number because it is unsaturated. The property prices right now are still below the prices in 2014, which was a peak for Dubai, right? Now, with inflation and all the things that have taken, all the growth that has taken place around the world, as well as in the UAE and Dubai since 2014, now, if we were in the same environment now that we were in 2014, the prices would have continued to increase, but the market wasn't ready for it. I believe Dubai, they needed to try sooner than later, be where they're at today. But anybody who goes to the market first with anything, trying to be the best place, the number one place in the world to visit, or the best product, whatever it is, you're going to have that first mover advantage, but you're going to experience more headwinds than the ones who waited to get into the game, in whatever game that might be. So people got afraid of Dubai because they saw it blow up in 2014, right?
Right.
And then but in reality, Dubai just tried to grow too fast. It wasn't ready for it. The world wasn't ready for it, right? Dubai may have been ready for it, but the world wasn't ready for it. Now, fast forward to now, where Dubai is one of the fastest growing markets in the world, providing some of the highest capital appreciation in the world and the highest rental rates in the world, return rates in the world. Now it's positioned perfectly to ride this wave. So just think about that. In 2014, everything was too high. Now, fast forward everything that's happened in the world and where Dubai is with its growth currently, and then apply the fact that the prices now in a better environment than 2014 have yet to get to the 2014 peak. So people say, Dubai's in a bubble, but it's not in a bubble. Yeah.
And we're going to talk later about Saudi Arabia, but for anyone who's a little bit more adventurous, if you want to get ahead of the curve, you can look at Saudi Arabia, but we'll talk about that on another podcast. So let's keep it to requirements. So financing and fees, we talked a little bit about the fees, legal due diligence. This, I'm going to say, anywhere you buy in your own country, in another country, if you can start buying real estate in Mars, wherever you want to buy, you need to hire a good attorney. And don't just hire any attorney. You need to find an attorney that's good. Personally, we have, like I said, if you're working with us, we have our own team of attorneys that we highly, highly, highly recommend. You don't need to work with them. We don't get a commission off of their work. We just want you to have a really good experience, and we want you to keep coming back to us for all of your investment needs, And so we've vetted our attorneys. These are attorneys that we've worked with. These attorneys, what do the fees look like for hiring an attorney, and how much time does the attorney generally need to be able to get you through a project?
So this is I wish I had a more concise answer for you, because everybody's looking for what's that cost. But it's all about the scenario, right? So like if you work with us, for instance, there's going to be a reduction in cost, because a lot of the processes that are required to own a property in Dubai, we're walking you through, and we've provided the vehicle for it, right? So we're going to walk you through it. You're just going to be signing paperwork and dealing with the questions that are asked, right? You can hire an attorney to do all that for you if you're by yourself and you don't have anybody like us, Pocket Listing and Michelle, by your side. If you're going to hire an attorney to do it all by yourself, I mean, you can spend $10, $20, $30,000 on attorney's fees, which can definitely eat into your investment profits. So you need to pick the right team, because if you don't, you're going to, in order to be on top of it like you should be with any foreign investment, you need to hire the right people. And so if you don't have the right people that are helping you find the property, because I believe that should be a part of our process to mitigate your expense, reduce your expense, and walk you through as much as we can without you having to spend more of your money. But if you're going to do it on your own, you're going to spend money to do it right, and it's going to be $10,000 to $30,000 USD. And the reason that number spans is because it depends on what type of property you're buying, what your purpose of buying the property is. Are you buying it as an individual, a personal individual who literally is just going to keep it for yourself, and you may rent it out, and that's fine. You don't need to set up an entity to open an Airbnb or to receive money. There's no income tax on that in Dubai. Or are you going to be buying the property for tax purposes? Are you going to, some of our clients buy to get a residency so that they can then open up a company and they can utilize that business for tax purposes. Some people are selling a company in the UK. They want to reduce their tax burden. And so they found ways to purchase a property in Dubai and open up a company. And by doing that, they're able to facilitate a transaction that reduces their tax liability on the UK side. So that process is going to cost more money because it's more intricate. And you're willing to spend more money on that process because of the amount of money you're going to save in taxes, right?
Exactly.
But if you're looking to buy as an individual, the best thing you can do is find a brokerage like Pocket Listing. And there's really not many like Pocket Listing in Dubai because we've come from the United States. We have offices in the United States as well as in Dubai. I have a Dubai team in the US as well as in Dubai. Most of these people, if they're selling Dubai, they don't even have a team on the ground in Dubai. They just have a connection to one of the developers and they're trying to push property for them. And all these differences are what differentiates our service over going through another brokerage or just doing it on your own. And so I would suggest to go find a company to walk you through it that helps cover a lot of these expenses because they're done in-house. But if you don't have access, if you're watching this, you have access. But if you don't have access, you want to hire the right attorney. And you can even comment in the comment section and we'll take a look at it and we'll refer you to the right place.
Yep. And for anyone who's seeing this coming from me, I'm often in Dubai. I want to say every couple of months. So perhaps we can, as you're going through explore, like you said, like he has people on the ground. We've broken bread together. And I'm often there. And so, it would be amazing to meet you there. So now we get into where I'm involved a lot more, and this is with short-term rentals. If you're buying the property, this is only if you're buying the property and you want to rent it short-term. Reasons you would want to rent it short-term: maybe you want to be able to use it on occasion. You want to take the higher risk but higher reward option where you're renting it short-term, like as a hotel, as opposed to renting it traditionally on a long-term lease. You may also want to rent it on a monthly basis. There's a lot of digital nomads, and if you're buying in rack, there's families. And so these people want to rent properties either nightly, monthly, or annually. And if you're doing anything less than, I want to say 30 days, I believe, anything less than a year, you need the short-term rental permit. And so we talked a little bit about this, but you do need to get permits to rent short term. Good side, the bad news is there's a permitting process, but it's a quick process. We can get you through. I think it takes just a couple of weeks to get you the permit. The good news is that means that it's totally on the up and up. There's nothing illegal about it. If you know me, you know I come from New York, which is like an absolute disaster because it went from being kind of something that nobody really knew what the rules were to being outright banned, but everyone kept doing it, to being like, no, it's definitely banned. You cannot do it. You should not do it anymore, and it's a disaster if you invested with the idea that you're going to rent short term. So you do need to get the permits. And remind me again who you get the permits through.
So it's the Department of Tourism and Commerce Marketing.
Okay. And
so
yeah,
Department of and Commerce Tourism and Commerce Marketing.
And I apologize that I forgot. Because I'm, again, like, just go through I'm very much the kind of person, outsource everything you can. And so when I'm investing, I hire the attorney. He sends me the documents to sign and I sign it and I know that everything's okay. You should do that too. I highly recommend it. But when you do pick an attorney, make sure that if you intend to rent short term, make sure that he knows the rules of short term rental as well, so he can walk you through that process. Finally, do you need a residency visa? Do you need a bank account if you're going to own property in Dubai? And what does it look like to get those set up?
Okay, so you can become a resident, but in order to become a resident, you have to spend a certain amount of money. And there's certain tiers depending on the residency, right? You have the 10-year golden visa, which is golden visa for a reason. It's the best visa you can get. That's going to require a spend of around $550,000 USD. I believe there are visas that are maybe spent from 1 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years. And that's if you spend less money, right?
Okay.
And so depending on how much money you spend, it can qualify you for a visa, and you don't have to get a visa. It's up to you whether you're going to get a visa. There's definitely benefits of getting a visa, like opening a bank account, traveling with ease through Dubai. And, that's pretty much the only reasons to get it over there if you're not living there full time.
So it's not necessary.
It's
what
not
about
necessary.
the bank account?
In the bank account, you don't need a bank account in Dubai, because the way that it works is, like, if you buy a property in Dubai, you're going to pay the developer or the owner from a bank account in the United States. It's going to get wired to their bank account. And when the buyer or the renter rents your property, they're going to pay you via whatever way you charge them. And in most instances, most people are not doing property management on their own. They've hired Airbnb, or they've hired you, Michelle. And you guys have a payment system that's put in place, and the payments are then directed to wherever the owner is, right? So again, they don't have to have a bank account. They just go right into their American bank account or their EU bank account. And then when the sale of the property happens, the money will just be wired to your bank account that you choose, whether it be in the UAE, in the UK, or in the United States. So those are all the ways people ask, like, well, how do I get my money? That's how you get your money, just like you would normally, right? If I buy something from Michelle, I'm going to send Michelle money at her bank. She don't have to have a bank in the US for her to receive the money. She just needs to give me her banking information. And Dubai is no longer on the gray list.
Really? This is news.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a big move. It's been about I want to say 2 months, maybe, give or take.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, if a place is on the gray list, it means that you're going to have tax problems.
Yes.
And if you're an American citizen, or if you're filing taxes in the U.S., it means you're going to have tax problems. So that's great, because I think this is something that was a problem for a lot of people. Definitely it's a discouraging factor.
It is. So it definitely is helping the overall consensus from investors and stakeholders around the world, because, being on the gray list isn't a good thing. It's associated with money laundering and other things that are dark. So yeah, it's very good for Dubai. And Dubai wasn't on there. Many countries get put on there, and it's not necessarily because of the country. It's because of some of the people going to that. And you have plenty of those people in the United States, in the UK, in Thailand, anywhere in the world you go, you have bad people. You have good people and bad people. So I don't like people to be like, oh, well, Dubai must be really bad for them to get on the gray list. And it's not Dubai, it's the people.
Well, and it's also the fact that, I mean, are investing in Dubai. A lot of people are investing with the intent to save on their tax burden. And there are ways to do this very much on the up and up that are not going to give you problems. And again, if you work with us, we'll put you in touch with a CPA who's going to walk you through all of that. We do not encourage money fraud or tax fraud. Rather, we want you to do everything legally. There is a way to do it legally and to save money. Okay, final thoughts on this. Oh, and the last thing, does owning property, and I ask this because I've heard of crazy situations, but does owning property in Dubai, can the U.S. tax you on your Dubai property?
They can't tax you on the ownership of the property because there's no real value. The value hasn't been exchanged. You bought the property with money you've been taxed on already, right? It's when you sell the property or you get income from that property. Dubai does report to the United States. So there are legal loopholes, and there's tax professionals, both in the UAE as well as the United States, that can guide you through those legal loopholes. We are not those tax professionals, right? So I would highly suggest speaking to one. We can guide you to one for sure. But there are ways to minimize your tax burden in the United States, but that's between you and your tax specialist. So understand that Dubai does report to United States bank accounts. And if you sell a property in Dubai, and even if you leave it in the Dubai bank, the US will know that you have a bank account. Now, it's a very murky subject because there is a case in the Supreme Court that just finalized, and it was a couple United States, US citizens, a couple who own a factory in India, who have yet to see capital appreciation from that investment, and they've been charged some sort of fee, not fine, but some sort of tax by the IRS for holding that. And they went to the Supreme Court to fight the fact that, hey, we haven't realized those gains yet, and the IRS is still saying, well, they're there. So there's a lot up in the air right now because of that lawsuit. And I really thought I thought that the Supreme Court would rule in favor of the taxpayer and not the IRS, but they did. And so that definitely opens up a whole new world stipulations of how this should be done. So, bottom line is that the U.S. is going to know about your investment in Dubai and the money that you have there. There are loopholes that you can utilize, and that's between you and your tax specialist, but you're not going to just go cover up your money over there and hope that no one sees it.
Yeah. And just to summarize quickly for anyone who doesn't, this is for Americans only. There is a tax treaty. The U.S. does know, or the banks report to the U.S. how much is in the bank account. So I think if it's over $2,000 in the bank account, you need to report it to the U.S. And if you don't, the U.S. already knows. So just to be on the up and up, this is not the same case for other countries. There are countries, I want to say Spain, France, even Germany, that look at the value of your assets and will charge you a tax based on those every year. So if you're coming from a country outside the U.S., we're American. We specialize in the U.S. We specialize in American clients. But not to say that we can't help you if you're coming from another country. Just know that you're going to have different rules. And you want to look at what those rules are for your country, especially if you still maintain residency. If you're not location independent, if you maintain residency in a country that taxes you on assets globally, you need to be sure to set it up correctly. Maybe you want to set it up in a holding so that holding is separate from you. There are ways, I think, to legally get around this. Just be sure that you do it correctly. So fine, to wrap it all up, so it seems actually very easy to invest in Dubai as a foreigner. It doesn't seem like you need, there have been countries like Austria where you need to open a company, and that company needs to have at least 2 Europeans in order to buy the real estate. It seems like in Dubai, you can just walk in, pick the property you like, put down your down payment, and make monthly mortgage payments the same as it's in the U.S. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Amazing. And so this is a new market. It's, I hope one day a way to a second passport, if that's something that's interesting for you. Just, grow your portfolio there. Maybe it's not the way to another passport. I really don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. But it is a way to have another residency. We know that, especially if you invest more than 500,000. And depending on how little or much you invest, you're looking at easily minimum 400 per month, which is not nothing. It's, a couple of really nice meals, if you're like me and you eat fancy. Or it can be, it's something that you can grow, because 10 of those is 4,000. And 4,000 is, depending on where you are in the world, enough to live on. So it's, you buy one and sell that and just keep growing your wealth. And this is again, the road to location independence. Any closing thoughts, Robert?
No, I mean, just the fact that, most people, they put up walls or barriers of entry to do anything in life. And a lot of things in life are easier than they think that it's going to be. And if they just tried it, they would see it. And, so Dubai is a great opportunity for anybody who's just looking to go out there and invest, start their investment portfolio or international investment portfolio, because it is so easy to do. And as long as you can legally get into the country, and you're good to go. So I think that's very rare for an opportunity to be presented in a place like Dubai, right? Most places that are performing this way, they only wealthy people get in on those deals. I like Dubai because, yeah, the wealthy can get in and benefit from the growth, but then you could buy a property for $100,000 and build some net worth from it, and that's very rare to do.
And with 10% down, you only need 10,000. So
yeah, and in the United States, if you took $100,000 and bought a unit, you're going to get a measly $100 to $200 a month, maybe, in profit from the rent. And that property is only going to increase 3 to 4% if you're lucky over several years,
right?
Not every year.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult.
We didn't get into the. Sorry, I just wanted to say we didn't get into the casino, but just we'll talk about it in another episode. But it's a really interesting project.
It is. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today as well.
Thank you. It was amazing.